It's Thursday, April 24th, 2025, and we've got our eyes on a big-time potential severe weather setup early next week. But first, let's address some active weather that we're actually having today before we get into that bigger picture. As I film this, there's actually an MCS moving through Oklahoma and portions of Texas. That's a line of storms, and that system is going to continue to cause some isolated damaging wind gusts as it moves southeastward today. And then there's going to be some new storms that form farther west as well, and that's why the Storm Prediction Center has a slight risk. That's a 2 out of 5 for severe storms later today, mostly across the southern and central high plains. Think about areas like Lubbock, Amarillo, Midland, and Texas. Large hail, potentially up to baseball size, is going to be possible, and damaging winds are going to be possible. Those are going to be the main threats today. There's also a lower end marginal risk. That's a 1 out of 5 extending from Iowa all the way back down into Texas and as far east as into a little bit of Louisiana. And with all the storm activity today happening in pretty much the same areas as it happened yesterday and the day before that, it makes a lot of sense that we've got a day one excessive rainfall outlook as well for potentially some flooding in Iowa down through portions of Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and into the DFW region. Some of these places have seen a ton of rain already this week, and we could see 1 to 3 inches of additional rainfall today, and some places will pick up even over 4 inches of rainfall just today. So that's going to cause some big problems. If you live in a flood-prone area, make sure you are paying attention to those warnings as they come out. All right, let's take a look at the bigger pattern driving this active weather and setting the stage for next week. We're still watching a significant upper level trough currently digging into the western United States. That's that big bowling ball looking thing that's behind my head there. Here, let me move my head. But yeah, that trough is expected to slowly organize and then eject eastward out of the Rockies and into the Great Plains from Sunday into Monday. And this ejection, this movement eastward of the trough, is the key mechanism behind our upcoming severe weather event. It's what's going to provide all that strong upward motion in the atmosphere. Now, simultaneously, as we have that strong upward motion in the upper levels of the atmosphere, on the surface underneath that rising motion, we're going to have a developing area of low pressure. And you can see this here on the GFS, especially on Monday. And the counterclockwise rotation here is going to bring very warm, moist air out of the Gulf all the way up there into Nebraska and Iowa. And we're talking about some really warm, moist air. This is some of the farthest north I've seen dew points get so far this year. So this is something that's pretty common, especially whenever we reach late April and into May, seeing this big warm sector go this far north. But whenever you combine that with the big sweeping low pressure system like we're going to have, it leads to a lot of problems. We're talking about upper 60s, even low 70s dew points, indicating a very juicy air mass. And this is going to be prime fuel for thunderstorms. Wow, look at that. And after looking at how juicy the atmosphere is going to be and how much lift there's going to be, it makes a lot of sense why we now have essentially an enhanced risk of severe weather for Iowa, southern portions of Minnesota, northern portions of Missouri on Monday, April 28th. This is a somewhat rare day 5, 30% enhanced risk area, and this corresponds to a high confidence from expert meteorologists that we are definitely going to have some big time severe weather problems on Monday. And this includes places like Des Moines, Omaha, Cedar Rapids, and potentially even Rochester in Minnesota. Now, beyond that, there's a broader 15% area, which isn't as rare, but it's still significant. And this is going to include places like Kansas City, Minneapolis, Milwaukee, and potentially even Oklahoma City and Tulsa. Meteorologically speaking, this storm looks potent, and we're going to have a ton of moisture and a ton of instability up here, especially in the enhanced risk area. We're talking about CAPE levels over 3,000 joules per kilogram. That is going to be more than enough thunderstorm fuel to spark very, very dangerous storms. But there's also a significant amount of thunderstorm fuel farther south, okay? Actually, if you go back and look at those dew points again, and you compare that to the 2,500 joules per kilogram of thunderstorm fuel we could potentially have down here around Oklahoma City, you might ask yourself, why isn't this area under the enhanced risk as well? Well, that's because down here farther south, there's going to be a warm layer of air in the atmosphere above the surface that's going to keep the warm, moist air from rising efficiently. We call that a cap, and we don't know if that cap is going to erode or not. If it does, Oklahoma and areas in southern Kansas might actually be the worst area. This might be the place that we have to watch for a more robust tornado threat, but there's a chance that we might not even see storms at all, or at least a limited version of what could happen. So therefore, the uncertainty is too high to increase the probabilities down there. But up here in Iowa and Nebraska into Minnesota, there's so much forcing. We know that the storms are going to pop up and burst through that cap. And I know you guys want to hear more about that, and we're about to dive very deeply into it. But first, let's shout out today's awesome sponsor. Sundays for Dogs, fresh dog food made easy. A lot of you guys might not know this, but I'm a huge dog lover. My wife and I have had our dog Luna since 2019, and she's the star of the show around the Weather House. And you know, we're always searching for the best food for her, and Sundays has given us that for Luna. Sundays is fresh dog food made from human-grade ingredients, 100% meat muscle, organs, and superfoods, and zero synthetics or artificial preservatives. Sundays has cleaner ingredients than frozen dog foods, but you can just pour it right from the bag because it's shelf stable. Once we made the switch to Sundays, we could tell Luna loved it immediately. Luna was a little bit of a picky eater before, but now she comes running when she hears the bag. The whole family agrees with her excitement. I think this is the best decision we've made for her health. Why don't you give your dog the chance to fall in love with Sundays as well? All you got to do is click that link in the description. You're going to get 50% off your first order by clicking that link, going right here to sundaysfordogs.com/Ryan Hall, or you can just use my code Ryan Hall at checkout, and that's going to get you 50% off your first order. So yeah, it's good stuff. If you got a dog, go check it out. Or if you know somebody with a dog, send this to them. I think they're really going to like it. So link in the description. Thank you, Sundays, for sponsoring this video and making Luna so happy. Now let's get back into the video. And once again, there is going to be a tornado threat even up there in that enhanced risk farther north, but if we can get that southern mode to pop off, that's probably going to be the bigger deal down there. But honestly, it's too far out to really be talking about mesoscale features and exactly what kind of threats we're going to have. Just know that this is going to be a pretty potent severe weather system, likely one of the stronger ones that we've seen in a little while. So if you live in any of the affected areas, don't be scared, be prepared, and start preparing now for potential warnings. And the severe weather is expected to continue into Tuesday, April 29th, as the system progresses eastward. The Storm Prediction Center currently has a 2 out of 5, 15% probability area stretching from northeast Texas into eastern Oklahoma, northeastward through the mid-Mississippi Valley, into the Ohio Valley, and into southern portions of Michigan and northwestern Ohio. This includes major cities like Chicago, Detroit, Indianapolis, Columbus, Cleveland, St. Louis, and potentially even the Dallas-Fort Worth metro. So after the storms die out Monday night, as we get into the heating of the day on Tuesday, we do expect a reignition of storms along that cold front as it moves east. And I'm going to be honest with you, the overall dynamics with the system look less favorable for widespread severe weather on Tuesday, but it still looks like it's going to be a pretty potent system and it will cause severe weather over a pretty large area. So I want everybody to be prepared out here as well, but we're way too far out on this one to talk about specific timing or impacts. But damaging winds and large hail are probably going to be the primary threats on Tuesday, though an isolated tornado can't be ruled out, and we'll refine that forecast a lot as we go forward. I'm going to have daily updates on this system even through the weekend, and every day we're going to peel off another layer, add a new piece to the puzzle, and understand a little bit more about what's going to happen. One thing's for sure is that along with the severe weather threat, this potent system early next week is also going to bring the potential for more heavy rainfall. We're going to have several rounds of heavy rain and thunderstorms fueled by that rich Gulf moisture streaming northward ahead of the storm system. This is going to continue to cause flooding problems in Texas, Oklahoma, maybe even into Arkansas and Missouri over the next week or so. Now, before we get to our next major storm system, it does look like there's going to be a little bit of activity this weekend. Friday, we've got a marginal risk of severe weather over here in Texas and Oklahoma. It's going to be pretty similar to what we've been seeing over the past couple of days. And then another one of those marginal risks exists on Saturday. And you can see that we also have these general thunderstorm risks that expand all the way over into the East Coast. And this is something that we've all been dealing with is, during the heating of the day when that relative humidity gets really high, you'll see, a dark cloud in the distance in the evening and it cools everything off with a pop-up shower or thunderstorm. That kind of pattern is going to continue all the way through the weekend. And looking even farther into the future, here in the short term, we're going to be above average in the east and the south central U.S. But if we set our sights further out, we're actually going to flip a little bit and be above average up here in the northwest, and some below average temperatures will be creeping in from Mexico. We will remain above average over here on the east coast, though, at least through May 7th. And that's going to come with a little bit of a decrease in the rainfall up here in the northern plains over into the western portions of the Great Lakes region into the upper Midwest. And we're actually going to start getting a little bit above average precipitation into the east coast, which is going to be nice for the drought over there. And we're going to continue to have rain down here in Arizona and West Texas, which is for the most part a good thing. All right, that's all the weather talk I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Please slap that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.